Okay, I think I got it. So, welcome today. I'm glad to see you all. Let's make sure that I got it. I noticed there was a couple on, so go ahead and say hey. Remember to like and share the videos. That'll help the algorithm for sure. All right, there we go. We are live. So, I'll leave this right here so I can see all the live chat. Let me know if there are any audio issues, anything like that. My husband set up most of it, but I still had to click everything. So, okay, we're into March management, and then I'm hoping next week to have a guest on, and we'll be talking about managing your home with lots of littles. It's a guest I've never had before. We actually met her. I mean, I've met her before. I met her at a conference, I believe, the Old Path conference in January. I met her, and then her family came up for the Louisiana soul winning and went soul winning with us. They live not super far from there. So Megan will be on next Monday, hopefully, if we can work that out. So definitely watch for that. She's got a lot of littles, and she has an Instagram channel, and I'm going to be promoting that, trying to get her some followers. It's cute. She's got a lot of cute little just tips and homemaking things on there. So, oh, good, Kaylin. So even though you might not use this stuff now, maybe you can put it back in the reserves for a time when you get married and you need to know how to manage your money well. So, hey Day, hey Kaylin, hey Shara, hey Sarah. Good to see all of you. So, I've definitely talked about this subject before, but since this is March maintenance, I thought it would be good to hit it again. I am in no way an expert on this subject. We would not be considered rich by any definition. We would not be considered wealthy by the world standards. However, I have learned to live large on cheap, and we've always paid our bills on time. Inflation is hitting all of us very hard, which that's why I thought too this would be a timely series for this. But yes, inflation is hitting us hard. Just this month, out of nowhere, our bills have doubled. Almost all of them have doubled. So I knew it was going to eventually hit us. Literally, the only thing that has not gone up in all the years that we've lived in our home, now almost 11 years, is the internet. Now that I say this is probably going to happen, but the internet has remained constant, and it's very low for an internet bill. So I don't want to say too much about it. That's really the only thing that hasn't gone up is our internet bill. Everything else is, I feel like it's skyrocketing, and I know it's because of different people in power right now and all of the rescue money during those years of 2020 and 21. I know it would eventually catch up to us, and it is. And I know it's hitting everyone. I know it's not just unique to me. I know it's not this, oh, woe is me. Everyone is feeling it. Being a stay-at-home mom is very much a luxury and a privilege, and some that even those who watch my show, you might not be afforded just because inflation is so high right now. And I'm sorry, I feel for you. I know how it is. It is definitely a struggle to make ends meet on a one-income home, a one-income salary. So I understand that that could be really tough. So hopefully some tips that I give you will help you stay in that position as a stay-at-home mom, or will help you be able to become a stay-at-home mom. So if that's what you want. But yeah, I understand that times are tough. And as wives who stay home, there's a lot we can do to help out and help our husbands out, help our budget out. Whether or not you handle the money, try to be a blessing when it comes to this subject, not a hindrance. And realize that you both need to be on the same page. Hello, Marie. Good to see you. So yes, just remember that you need to be on the same page when it comes to this. Now, I do sometimes get the question, what do I do if my husband is the spender? And what do I do if I want to be on the budget and he doesn't want to be? That is a lot more difficult than if your husband is trying to get you to stick to a budget, because overall we do believe that the man is the leader. And that's why I do think that goes into definitely picking out a husband, or picking out who you're going to be with. I would recommend that you teach your daughters to look for a man that is stable, that has had a long job, that is able to pay his bills, that isn't in debt, that doesn't have a lot of credit cards, doesn't go above his means when it comes to even the type of car he buys. Is he spending too much? Is he barely making his bills? Is he able to tithe? Is he a tither? You know, you got to look at all those things. So, number one, if you're a young person and you're a single woman, have that be a requirement. He has to be good with money before you even, you know, consider marriage, because money is something that has the potential to cause the biggest problems in a marriage. Money and kids, I found, are usually the two big things that cause marital problems. Just from the emails that I've gotten, it's money, it's kids, and it's the physical relationship. Those are the three big ones. Those are where most problems stem from in a relationship. So realize that it would be good to marry someone on the same page. You know, what are our goals? And that's another thing to watch out for too, is your husband abandoning his walk with God or putting his walk with God on hold in order to make more money? Does he only want money? You know, is that his drive? Or is his drive just to be a hardworking man so that he's able to provide for a wife and children? You know, that needs to be the focus. Is he hardworking? Is he able to provide for you? But not so much have, you know, money being his main goal. So definitely be on the same page when it comes to money. If you're a single girl, keep that in mind when you're dating someone. Watch how he handles his money. Watch how he handles his finances. See what his priorities are and decide if yours line up with that. So number one, have a working budget. This is my number one tip when it comes to managing money. We went for many years without a budget. So basically, we didn't really know. Like, we had a brief timeline in our head of when our bills were due, but it wasn't on paper. So when we found ourselves getting a credit card and getting into debt, we knew we had to do something, because at the time we only made $35,000 to $40,000 a year, and our credit card debt was, I don't know, between $6,000 and $10,000, I think, and we also had a car payment that we owed money on. So if we knew that even just having a third of our income in debt was bad. Like, we should not have that much debt for how little we made. So we did read Dave Ramsey, and I would recommend him for financial advice. Obviously, I'm not going to recommend him for marriage advice or spiritual advice or even how to be saved. But if he's giving out financial advice, it's working, it's okay to listen to. So we did read Dave Ramsey's books. We put into practice what he talked about, and basically that is the snowball effect. You want to start out with your smaller debts first and pay them off, and then it just starts snowballing. Then when that debt is paid off, you put that payment towards another debt, the next biggest debt, and eventually you'll have that paid off. Then you want to get some money in your savings account for an emergency fund. You know, you want to try to save up with cash to buy things. He did the envelope system, which we did do for a while, and that's where you have envelopes with cash, and once the cash is gone, you're done. So you're done for that day. Like, if we have $40 for fun this week, if the $40 is gone, you don't have any more fun that week. You know, we have $20 for a movie. You know, if that's gone, we don't do it. We have, you know, $150 for groceries, and this is what I spend on groceries. So we did implement that into our lives. It kind of morphed into just a set budget for, okay, I have this much that I can use the debit card for on groceries, because cash is definitely becoming antiquated. But when we first were starting out, it was a good practice to get into. Like, I can see my cash. This is how much cash I have, because it is easier to use a debit card when you can't really see your bank account. It is easier to do that. So, but have a working budget. Know what's coming in and know what your bills are. We were shocked when we first sat down and actually put everything down on paper and saw how much our spending was more than what we had coming in, which is why we were then putting stuff on the credit card, and why we didn't, you know, and it would be stuff like clothing or eating out. You know, we were putting that on the credit card, and we shouldn't have been. So once we sat down and we had a good hard look at our income, we're like, we cannot be living like we're making 6 figures a year when we're not, you know, when we're only making 5 figures a year, you know, or or whatever it was. We cannot be acting this way. So we had to take a good, hard look at ourselves and our spending habits, and we had to readjust. So, yeah, and I'm sure that there are even more budgeting apps. This is before, when we sat down, we had literally a notebook and his book. So we wrote down everything in our notebook. Then we went to Quicken, which is what we've pretty much used since then. My husband uses it for the church. We use it for our personal budget, and that's a computer program. So we went to Quicken, and there's even more budgeting apps. Like, everything is accessible now, so much easier than even when we started. So you really have no excuses when it comes to budgeting. Decide who does the main budget. Now, this has gone back and forth between my husband and I. Sometimes I do it, sometimes he does it, and it kind of goes back and forth. And then decide what is allotted to what. So I've said it often. When we first started out, I had a very, very little amount for groceries. In fact, I cried because we were trying to figure out, we just weren't making enough to pay the credit card bills, to pay the car payments. We weren't making enough. So he's told me, he's like, I wish I could give you more, but this is what we have to work at. Now, fortunately, we only had a couple little kids at the time. So they were happy with PB&J. They were happy with, macaroni and cheese. They were happy with fruit for a snack. They were happy with homemade cookies for a snack. They didn't need these big elaborate things. So I was able to, and this was, of course, 15, 16 years ago when we first started working out our budget. We had Aldi, and I was able to get things for $40 a week for all of us. Now that'll make you one meal. So I know things have definitely changed, but decide who's in charge of the main budget. Sometimes I did it when it got to where we had to take a pay cut, or when we started the church and we had no income coming in for a while. I couldn't do it anymore for my mental well-being. My husband ended up taking it over, and he decided what needed to be done. If we needed extra income, there's been many times he's gone out and had to get a part-time job. There's been many times that he's had to have another source of income, and I just feel better overall when it's on his plate and he can, worry about that being the main breadwinner. I am granted the privilege to stay at home, so he is the main breadwinner for our family, and it might be different with yours. It might look different. So it's just depending on what works best for your family. For us right now, it works best when he does it, when he keeps track of the bills, when he knows what's coming in and what's going out, and he can see the overall picture. He can look at the month and see, okay, like, our goal is to break even. So he can see, okay, yeah, this week is a problem. We cannot spend extra. We have to stick with the budget down to a T, so on and so forth. And then he'll tell me if we need to do that. So, but stick to it. It's easy to justify spending $10 of your grocery budget, or, spending an extra $5 on that coffee. It's easy to justify it, but if your husband has said, please stay within these guidelines, you should really try to stay within those guidelines, unless an emergency comes up, which I'm sure he would understand then, but definitely be open with him, communicate with him. So as it stands now, occasionally we'll carry a little bit of debt on our credit card, but we try not to for long. We definitely, if we do put things on there to get points, but then we try to pay it off when the billing cycle is done. So it is a good way. There are programs you can do where you can save up points for vacations. You can save up points to take money off of your balance, so then you're basically getting things for free sometimes. But you have to be very disciplined too, because bills come up all the time. And I was going to pay the $250 off to the credit card, but then I had this emergency bill come up, so now I'm going to put it towards that, and then that's when the credit card starts building up. So you have to be really careful. All right, so managing your money, you've got to decide who works. Obviously, I'm going to encourage a mom to stay home where she can guide the home. And that's what this channel is here for. That's what it exists for. But I do want to caution women who watch my channel. I have noticed something, and I've got the thoughts going around in my head, and I kind of want to write something along these lines. I think sometimes we think that being a stay at home mom is the end all to end all. I feel as if we can put it on a pedestal and we can almost make it into an idol. And we have to be careful about that as Christian moms because just being a stay at home mom is not going to magically produce these wonderful children. If you are a working mom, being a working mom is not going to guarantee that you're going to have awful children. And I think we make idols out of things sometimes. And we almost become lazy in a way. Well, I'm a stay at home mom, so that's going to guarantee good kids. No, it's not. I've known many stay at home moms who kids have walked away from it all when they turn 18, 19 years old. I've known working moms who have produced children who love the Lord and follow in their parents' footsteps. They're involved in church, they're involved in ministries. So just being a stay at home mom is not the end all. So be careful judging other women who are not in your situation, who have to work outside the home. Be very careful casting judgment. It's not our place, first of all. Second of all, we don't know what's going on in their life. We don't know the bills that they face. Maybe they have medical bills. Maybe they have, unforeseen bills. Maybe there's baggage in their life before they got married. They have alimony or they have child support or whatever. There could be bills we have no idea about. So it's not our place to judge or throw stones. You have to do what's best for your family and then just be happy with that. So obviously I'm going to encourage mom to stay home if she's at all able to, but I realize that there are situations where moms can't. So for us, anything that I do on the side, we do not use it for bills. That's something that we determined when we first started having kids. The only time I've ever had anything part-time was just for fun, just for an outlet for me, I guess, because I love teaching music and music is my thing. So my husband wanted me to have it for fun, but we determined that we were not going to ever use my money for bills because we don't ever want to be reliant on that. We both want to know that if need be, tomorrow something comes up and I cannot teach piano for weeks at a time. And I always take every summer off too. So we cannot rely on my income. So my income goes towards extras that comes up in our life. Extra fun things for the most part, and not even fun things like clothes, extra clothing, extra shoes, extra, kids constantly go through shoes, extra whatever comes up, extra fun things that we do. That's what my side money comes in for. So that's been our philosophy. My husband never wanted to get dependent on anything that I made because my main job is being in the home. So I do believe in the husband being the breadwinner. But I wanted to put this in here with the working thing. Remember that having a large family comes with costs. And that's another thing too. I feel as if sometimes we idolize large families and having lots of kids. And you don't consider the cost before you do that. And I am 100% on board with children are a blessing. Obviously, I believe that. Obviously, I think that. I've had 10 pregnancies and I have 8 children. So I'm a firm believer in that. But you do need to realize that with extra kids comes extra costs. With every child, that's more responsibility on your husband as the sole breadwinner. And I have known of situations where the husband feels at peace with the number of children that they have at the time and wants to use or implement some sort of natural family planning or something that's not going to compromise life that's already there, abort life that's already there, so on and so forth. And the woman will have nothing to do with it because maybe a preacher somewhere said that that's evil and wrong, and so she listens to the preacher over the leadership of her own husband, her husband who's the one who has to pay the bills and has to support these children. She'll listen to someone else over his leadership, and she'll be sneaky. Maybe she'll be deceptive in the way that she gets pregnant again, and I think that's just wrong. I think that's ungodly, unbiblical. As wives, we should listen to our husband's leadership, and if he is overwhelmed at the sheer amount of responsibility that comes with feeding all the kids, providing for the kids, maybe you need to look into ways to know your cycle and to just kind of put that on hold and follow the leadership of your husband. So that might be unpopular in some circles, and I don't care. That's my belief on the subject. And you need to count the cost when it comes to having a big family because there is a big cost when it comes to having a large family. You're going to have midwife bills, you're going to have hospital bills. If you're homeschooling, you're going to have curriculum costs that you need to consider. There's lots of medical bills when it comes to having lots of children. There's dental bills when it comes to having lots of children, and they are expensive. We're getting ready to pay $1,000 for a tooth of one of my daughters that we've been dealing with for a couple years. That's just been causing a lot of problems. So there are lots of things that you need to consider when having a large family. The grocery bill is astronomical at times, and I know my budget is about $300 to $350 a week, which is lower than some people's, and it's higher than others. So every family is going to be unique when it comes to the grocery bill, but it's going to be rather large if you have a lot of kids. So consider the cost and the responsibility. If your husband is not on board with you having a child every year, then you need to consider that, and you need to take that into consider. I just repeated myself, but you need to take that into consideration. And I would highly recommend against going above his head. And just, by golly, this is what was preached and I'm going to do it. Well, following the leadership of your husband usurps any of that. So the Bible's very clear about women reverencing their husband and women following the lead of their husband. So that trumps anything someone else has something to say. And even what I'm saying now, if your husband is like, nope, that's stupid, I want you to have a baby every year, go for it. Have a baby every year. He trumps me, and my husband trumps any other man out there when it comes to our relationship. So just keep that in mind. How can we lower our grocery bill? Because we have to eat, right? So we have to eat. Aldi, obviously, low-cost stores. I love Aldi. They have relatively cheap produce there, so I like going there. If you want to shop or all organic and you have the budget for it, go for it, but that is not high priority for me. I just can't afford it. Right now, the priority is keeping my children fed, not feeding my children all organic. So I like Aldi. Food pantry or food banks, definitely utilize them, take advantage of them. A lot of them will have fresh produce, and I take advantage of that anytime I can. We have people in the church that take advantage of it and are really a blessing when it comes to that. So utilize those things. How do I feel about the link card? The link card, for any of you who don't live in Illinois, it is food stamps basically, but it's on a debit card now. I feel as if it is a tool that can be utilized when you have a catastrophic event in your life. So let's say your husband gets laid off and you are looking at zero income for the next inevitable 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever. Definitely utilize that. That's what it's there for. I would just caution against making it a lifestyle. I do firmly believe that if you're going to have all these children, you need to consider the cost, like I said, and you need to be prepared that, the husband might need to work 2 jobs. And the wife might need to have a side thing if you are okay with depending on that. We're not, but if you're okay with depending on that, she might need to have a part-time thing going on. I think it's easy to get comfortable with someone else paying our bills, and we're the ones who decided to follow the Lord's leading and have all these children. So I do believe God will provide if we allow him, probably not in the form of government assistance or government money. So I would say it's definitely there for a need at the time, but if you can, do not get off of it as soon as you're able to. Don't make it a lifestyle. I firmly believe in providing for our family's needs ourselves, not being relying on outside sources to do that. So another way is cooking from scratch. That's huge. That's going to save you so much money. I don't know if you've noticed, but even nasty old cheap McDonald's is like $10 a meal now, which is unacceptable. I hate McDonald's, first of all. Second of all, I can eat so much more for $10 of just produce and vegetables at my own home. So cook from scratch for sure. Some cheap meals that we have utilized through the years when we were working our way out of our debt. We had one one night a week, which my husband still to this day doesn't really even want to eat this, but we had rice and beans. So that is a cheap, easy meal. It's very filling. There's lots of protein in it, especially if you add meat to it. Sometimes we would, sometimes we wouldn't. Basically, it was beans, hamburger meat, picante sauce, and lots of seasonings. I would put cheese on mine, he would not, and we would put that in tortilla shells. Super easy meal. Chicken dishes, for us, we live primarily off of chicken. We don't do too much beef because it's just so expensive. You can buy half a cow if you have taxes every year. You can put some aside and buy half a cow. We've done that before. It's been awesome because then we have steaks and we have ground beef. Beef dishes are very, very low for us, though. We have about one beef dish a week, and that could be stew. Tacos we do at least once a week, but primarily it's chicken dishes. And then I will make homemade pizza quite a bit. I've been doing homemade pizza with my sourdough discard, and that's been really good for lunch. The kids really like that, and that's super cheap and super easy to make. I keep lots of flour on hand for the sourdough bread. You can do sourdough bread and eggs in the morning. That's a really nice filling meal. We do a lot of sausage or pork, sausage and breakfast food, eggs, and anyone that knows or follows me knows that I have been on a diet since July. Well, I call it a diet. It's more of like a lifestyle, and it is not much more expensive to eat the way I've been eating, and it's probably because I'm eating a ton of fruits and veggies, which those are very decently priced. So fruits and vegetables are going to be so much cheaper than prepackaged junk that you can buy at the store. So I've primarily been eating that since July, at least one big meal a day. I've also been implementing fasting so that I'm not even eating 1 day or 2 days a week. So obviously that cuts down on any extras for me. So some of the extras that I'll get when we have it in the budget are protein chips. I love protein chips, but they're super expensive, but they're great if you have a chip craving. Some cheeses, some different kinds of cheeses, and my Ghost every day. Of course, I do drink that. I've probably should have put stock into Ghosts when I first started my diet, but that's what I'm talking about. That's what I consider extras. So all the stuff I just mentioned, I pay for that with any of the side money that I have coming in. I don't pay for that out of the regular grocery money. I buy those things. So that doesn't come from our regular budgeted grocery money. So that's kind of what I consider extra, stuff like that. But yeah, those are some of the meals that we do. Obviously, a lot of kids love pancakes. Kids love pasta dishes. If you're on a diet, you can still work your way around that by just making a meat. Maybe a meat that you can put, one of our favorite dishes is chicken and shrimp over pasta. So you could do meat and then your vegetables, and you've got your meal, basically. So how do you go about lowering your bills? So number one, I would say call around. First of all, be aware what you're paying. A lot of times, like they've done this month, they can jack it up. Well, one of the reasons we found out with our electric bill is our community did something to where we had a break for a couple of months, and then they hiked our energy up. So we were able to switch to a different energy provider. So always keep an eye on that. Unfortunately, it doesn't take off what we accumulated last month. So we still have that we have to pay. But for electric, we have to be on budget billing. Looking to get on budget billing. The only thing with budget billing is you cannot be like a day late. If you're a day late for 2 times, I think you get kicked off of it, and then you have to pay. If you're like in the hole when it comes to your budget billing, you have to pay that up front. So be very careful about that. Make sure that your due dates are correct with what you do. What we do, a lot of times my husband does this with the church bills too. We will go through, we know our budget, we know what's coming in because he's on salary. So we know what's coming in and we know our bills going out. So we will, instead of just waiting until like right before the due date, we'll schedule them for the due date to come out on that due date. And then we'll take it off on the budget, which is on our Quicken. So we'll schedule it, but not until the actual due date. So, and then that way you don't take the risk of being late. Sometimes if you're late with a credit card, they will tack on a $30 late fee, and those can add up really quickly. So you need to be watching that and be very careful about that. So then, you know, go through and get rid of any bills that you don't need. That's a good thing to do. You've got to go through and get rid of anything that you don't need. Just be aware of what you're paying. You know, just be aware of what they are. I think a lot of times people just aren't aware of their bills or what they're paying, and they just hiked up our grocery. Not our grocery. They just hiked up our garbage like over $100. So we called around and we found a lower rate and we switched. So don't feel afraid of switching, whether that's insurance, you know, garbage, whatever it is. So, but yeah, sometimes there's little bills that you don't even know you're paying. Maybe you had a subscription to this Prime Video and, you know, you didn't even know it. So get rid of that. I've done that before. I've gone through and I've done different, gotten rid of these little bills, like a $15 bill, $10 bill, just gotten rid of them. So appliances, how can we cut the cost or manage our money when it comes to appliances? Facebook Marketplace is a great place if you don't mind getting used. Menards actually has decently priced appliances and they run sales on them a lot. Some Menards have a scratch and dent place, and so I'm waiting actually on a fridge right now from Menards. Look at local appliance stores if they break down a lot. I have used Knie here in town, and I always get I pay the $100 and I get the service agreement on it for my washer and my dryer and my dishwasher, especially because we use those three things so many times throughout the week. And my dryer, I'm going to recommend too, I did not do my due diligence when it came to researching my last dryer, and I should have never, ever, ever, ever buy a Samsung, like appliance, anything horrible. My dryer has broken down. We had a 5-year service agreement on it that we spent $100 for, and they were literally coming out every 3 to 6 months to fix it. And for right now it's working, but our service agreement is done, and as soon as it breaks again, I'm not kidding, I'm probably just going to look for one off Facebook Marketplace because I'm so frustrated with my dryer. So garage sales are another great thing. We had a friend find us our stove, and it matches perfectly with our appliances. It's black and stainless steel, and we didn't even pay that much for it. I can't even remember how much. It's still kicking. It's still around. It's been the best stove ever, and we did not pay very much for it from a garage sale. So there's definitely deals like that that you can find. But what about when it comes to your credit card? Keep a low balance or pay it off. You know, credit cards have a habit of getting away from you. So keep your eye on it, pay it off. Find cards with low interest or zero interest, or use cards where you get points off or you accumulate points, or the points take the dollars off. So, or you accumulate points. My sister has a card that's really good that she accumulates points the whole year, and that's how they pay for their vacation. So, and what they do is when they pay their bills with the credit card, but then at the end of the cycle, they pay off the credit card. So they're getting all these points just for paying bills, but then they have a free vacation at the end of the year. And I'm not talking like a piddly vacation. Like, it pays for all of their airfare and food to, like, her husband's from Australia. So they'll go to Australia and they're pretty much just paying, well, for nothing, because it pretty much covers the whole vacation. So it covers their airfare and the food while they're there. And they stay with family, so they don't have lodging. So yeah, there's all sorts of deals and credit cards that you can find. Find one with a zero. Some of them have yearly fees. You don't want one with a yearly fee because they could be $50 to $100. Some of them have 0% interest for a year. That's kind of what we do. We have one for a year, and then when we start accumulating interest, even though we try to keep a very zero or very low balance on it, my husband will switch to another one for that 0% for a year. And we have really good credit, so it's not hard for us. It's not always bad to have a credit card as well, just to build up your credit, because after we went through Dave Ramsey, we had no debt for a few years, like zero. No car debt, no house debt, no credit card debt. When we went to go buy a house, we had not bought a house yet. We had only been renting up to that point. When we went to go buy a house, we had zero credit. And so we had to spend a year having a credit card and building up credit before we were able to buy a house a year later. So we had to rent for another year until we got our credit score up, and now we have super good credit. So let's talk about cheap trips though. I feel like some people in my position, having a large family and being a pastor's wife, we often get judged on if we do anything fun. Having a public platform, why does she get to do this and why does she get to do that? It's because I know how to do things very cheap. I was just asked this question, how are you able to do that? I know how to do things cheap. I figured out how to fly cheap, and I figured out how to have cheap stays. My number one tip is start, if you know that you have a trip coming up, start tracking it on Google Flights. So you can go and you can just Google Flights. And if you are signed in under your name, you can plug in all the information, which dates you need, where you're going to, which airport you're leaving from, which airport you're going to. And then you can push the little toggle that says track flights. You push that over, and then every time the price drops, you'll get an email. Every time the price goes up, you'll get an email. Chloe is going to be in a wedding in Florida here in a few weeks, and the way I was able to find her flight so cheap was I was tracking her flights, and we were actually on the way to Louisiana when I got an email saying your flight has dropped to $78. And so I told my husband, I said, we need to grab this. So I did. I went right then. I got into, it was just a really cheap Spirit flight is what it was. So she's going to try to make it without a bag. That's the thing with Spirit. And know which airline you're going with. Know if it's extra to take a bag. I also have hacks when it comes to which bag you need to take. I have hacks with how to pack it. So you can really get away with a lot of these different traveling hacks. But I was able to get her a ticket round trip through Spirit for $85. Well, the next day, I got an email saying your flight has jumped to $175. So within days, flights change. That's why you have to have Google Flights tracking it. And as soon as it hits a rock bottom price, you snag that ticket. And then you'll be shocked. I went in and plugged in some numbers of some trips that are coming up just to see, and they've already jumped like way up. So when it hits rock bottom, grab it. You know, Priceline, because I have been going through Priceline for 15 some years, I'm like VIP. And because I'm VIP, I get very, very low prices when it comes to rooms. So you can also do express deals on Priceline. I don't like this as much because I'm kind of picky about where I stay. I don't want to stay in a bed bug hotel. So I'm pretty picky about this. So I don't do express deals much anymore, but I've not really been burned. I have done them in the past, and you can literally get a $50 room if you use express deals. Basically what an express deal is this works best when it's very short notice. So let's say I'm looking for a room for tomorrow night. I will pick out which star I want. And that's usually like 2.5 or above. I won't stay in a 2.5 or lower. So 2.5 star, and then you put your price in. It's basically like you're bidding on a room. And if you get it, then they give you the hotel. They'll say like, this is what kind of hotel you'll get. It could be like a Comfort Inn and Suites, you know, Super 8. Usually if Super 8 is on the list, I won't do it because I've been burned by Super 8s before. And most of them are under very poor management nowadays. So if it's a Super 8, I stay away from it. But if it's rooms like Country Inn and Suites, Holiday Inn Express, you know, Fairfield Inn, then I'll take my chances and I'll do an express deal, and you can get a room for $50 for a night, which is a steal, I think, especially if breakfast is included, which you can put options in there like I want free parking, I want breakfast, and then you're getting so much for your money when you do that. So Airbnbs, I haven't done too many of these, but looking into some of the trips that I've been planning for the next year or two, I'm finding that Airbnbs have really good prices. They obviously don't offer things like cleaning your room, breakfast, but I like the option where they have a kitchen where you can make your own food, because another thing that we do on trips is we only eat one meal out a day. That's it. So we either stay at a hotel that has free breakfast, and then we eat a really good breakfast, and then we usually eat like one big meal, like 2 or 3, and that's enough. We'll buy some snack foods for wherever we're staying, and then that's enough to sustain us for the whole time. So, and then also plan free activities. Or you could do state parks that have a very small fee, like, $10 to get in, $15 to get in, whatever. There are so many free activities, especially depending on where you go. I mean, if you go to the Grand Canyon, that's totally free, and that's a whole day of sightseeing wonderful, miraculous things, right? So recognize the season that you are in. I was 18 years old when I first flew, and it wasn't until I was almost 40 that I flew again. So it is just now recently gotten to the last couple of years where I've been able to take a trip here and there, and I've been able to go here and leave the kids with dad, or leave the babies with the older kids. So your time for fun trips will come, but don't compare your life to everyone on social media. Don't think that you need to plan a vacation because your best friend planned a vacation. Don't think that you need to plan a vacation because I planned a vacation. We do trips without going into debt. We pay with cash. So if we know we have a trip coming up, we just save. And that's where, once again, my side money comes in. So maybe you want to be able to travel at some point in your life, and then that's when maybe you can have some side income coming in to cover all that. So, and then too, knowing that anything you do on the side is, it can be a lot of work, but it's all going towards making memories and having fun and, doing this trip or whatever. So bills come first with our family. Trips and fun things come secondly. But as long as we're paying our bills, we don't feel guilty saving up any extra that comes in for those trips. And then another way that you can make trips affordable is split them with friends. Go in on an Airbnb with a friend, go in on a hotel room with a friend, and then go in a rental car with a friend. Everything is easier when you split it. Realize that the resort life might not be for you when it comes for trips. I've realized that resorts are overrated. When I go on a trip, I want to get away from people. I don't really want to be around people. So I would much rather be in God's creation. It's so much better just in a rented Airbnb out in the middle of nowhere. Give me that and I'll be happy. So learn to do simple trips to amazing places. I don't need a 5-star restaurant to eat at. I don't need a 5-star resort to stay at. I would just rather see God's creation. I want to see God's world. I want to go to the really scenic places and, the state parks and the hiking and the waterfalls and all of that. I would much rather go there than pay for this luxurious, I don't know, cruise even, or spa day or something. I would just rather be out in God's nature. So that's how we're able to do trips, is we do them very simply, and we save up cash for them. We don't go into debt with them, and we do our research. Part of the fun for me, I like planning my own trips because I like researching. I like researching where I'm going. I like trying to find the rock bottom prices. It's super fun, and it is just such a sense of accomplishment when you spend hours researching a place and then you're able to, book a relatively cheap trip where other people would be paying thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars for. So that's part of the fun for me. I remember my mom being like this when she would plan a trip, and I just thought she was so silly, but I have literally morphed into that. And I love planning trips. I love researching about things, about places that we're going, and it's just a lot of fun for me. So what are the most important things that we've done with our money and the maintenance of our money? So this will be the last thing. I'm going to kind of wrap it up with this. But number one, we've always tithed. We don't even live on 100% of our income. We live on 90% of our income, and sometimes less if there's a need that we fulfill from someone, a loved one, a fellow brother or sister in Christ. So we have always lived on 90% of our income since the day that we got married. People will look at our family size, and they'll look at our bills, and they'll look at even, us living in our modest home on our 3 acres, and they're like, how in the world can you afford that on 90% of your income? But God's made it work. We've always just given to God first off the gross, and He's made it work. So that's the number one thing that we've done. Number two, given to those who need it. There's always someone worse off than us. There's always someone in a worse financial state than us. So if we can at all meet that need, And it might not even be a huge need. It might be a $50 tire, or it might be a meal out, or it might be $100 towards rent. You know, it doesn't have to be huge, but our brother or sister in Christ knows that we're thinking about them and knows that we're looking out for them. So, and we've been on the giving end of this so much. There's so many people watching out for us, so many people helping us with our needs when they come up. And I know that they're being used of God. So anytime you help out someone else, you're being used by God as well to help fulfill someone else's need. So number 3, we've always had a working, not always, I'm sorry, about 5 years into our marriage, 4 years, 3 or 4 years into our marriage when we started the Dave Ramsey stuff. Since then, for the last 20 years or so, we've had a working budget, and we try to stick to that budget. Things are going to come up, obviously, but for the most part, we've tried to stick to it. We've never depended on any income I bring in or I've brought in. Sometimes my income will go towards like school books or curriculum, but even that's rare. For the most time, it's for anything extra that comes up, whether it's needs of the kids that's not in our budget, because we don't have like a clothing budget. We used to. Back when we did Dave Ramsey. But because I'm able to get clothing at rock bottom prices now, we haven't felt the need to, and I usually just cover that with any money I bring in. We also utilize a free, my kids call it the free clothing sale. Once a month, they're open in a town about 40 minutes from here. We go and we take advantage of that. And, you know, my kids have found shoes there, pajamas there, lots of skirts, lots of shirts for my girls. So we've utilized that. Number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we have communicated with each other. We've been on the same page when it comes to our goals. What are our goals? Number 1, tithing. Number 2, paying our bills. Number 3, providing for our kids' needs. Number 4, just breaking even. Those are pretty much our goals. And then maybe having a little extra at time to help out other people in need. So those are our goals. And we've always communicated. When my husband has said we really need to not spend any this week, we don't spend any that week. We live off beans and rice for that week. So we've trusted each other. I trust him to pay the bills. I trust him to know if he needs to get another job, to know if he needs to do something else to bring in supplemental income. He trusts me that I'm not going to go out and spend over the budget, that I'm not going to get us in debt, that I'm not going to use the credit card, that I'm not going to go buy a bunch of furniture we can't afford. You know, we both trust each other. We've had the same goals. Our entire married life, both of us have had a really good work ethic. And obviously, this is kind of something that's lacking in today's generation, but it's definitely something that needs to be happening in a marriage, in a working home, especially with the wife being the stay-at-home mom. You need to have a good work ethic, especially the man, because a lot of times he's going to be shouldering the responsibility of a wife and lots of kids. So my husband has always had a tremendous work ethic. He pretty much works every day of the week with no breaks, and he'll take out an extra job too if he needs. And he's just shouldered that responsibility since day one, and he's been awesome. And then also, we have paid with cash, whether that comes to furniture purchases, trips, vacations. We put aside cash, or we'll save up and then put it aside in a separate savings account and just had that for that need. So, and then last but not least, we have always implemented praying for our needs. So, you know, I think we underestimate the power of prayer, and maybe that should be at the top of the list. I know I'm always in constant prayer when it comes to stuff like this, but that should be at the top of the list because God has come through in so many ways. He has never failed us. We are not late on our bills. We are able to pay them. Sometimes I have no idea how, but we're able to. And we're able to put food on the table. We're able to keep shoes on our kids' feet. We're able to keep, I'm reading the chat as I'm doing this. We're able to keep shoes on our kids' feet. we are able to keep a roof over their head and provide a good living for them where they do get to experience things because I'm able to do things pretty cheap. I can plan out some pretty awesome activities for us to do. So they are able to experience a lot of really neat things, and that's what I want for them. And so, prayer obviously is one of the bigger parts of that. God has seen every need before it's happened. He's put people into our lives that have helped with those needs. Um, he has taken care of us. He has provided for us, and I do think we underestimate the power of prayer often. So don't ever forget that. So hopefully these things have helped. You just have a fresh outlook on money. Hopefully the tips have helped. If you have any questions or comments, leave it down below. Definitely like and share this video if it's helped you at all. If you have any tips, money saving tips, one of the people I started following when I was paying off my debt, and if you are a couponer, I don't know how coupons are nowadays. I don't really do them anymore, but we pretty much got all of our toiletries. I didn't pay anything for them back when I did the coupon game. And I followed someone called Money Saving Mom. She is a Christian, and she posts deals, like does emails with deals in it from Amazon, deals, coupon deals, clothing deals, shoe deals, like all of these different things. She posts them. So her name is Crystal Payne. She's been around since the time I was first married and I got into this whole journey of budgeting and saving money. And so she has a lot of good tips. She has a lot of deals that she posts. You can do coupons for like CVS and play the CVS game where you get extra care bucks back and then you keep rolling them over. And I pretty much got all our toothpaste, our shampoo, conditioner, hygiene stuff. I got that all for free back when I did that. But it does take a lot of time. So it got to the point where my time was more valuable than what I was getting for free. So I had to kind of phase out of that as I got more and more kids. I remember every Sunday afternoon, I would sit there with my cup of coffee and I would clip coupons and then I would organize them in like this coupon binder. I would go through the extra care specials at CVS and I would plan out my shopping trip. I would go in armed with my coupons, and sometimes I would pay like 50 cents and I would have a whole 2 bags full of stuff. So there's definitely things that you can do to get toiletries even free. If you want to go into the whole coupon game, like I said, I don't know if they're as good now as they were back then, but they used to have buy one get one free deals, and I would have a buy one get one free coupon and I get them both free. So they used to do that. I don't know if they do anymore, but there are definite ways that you can save money. I see you managing your money. You get a lot of outfits. And that's the thing too, even when it comes to clothes, there are Shein. I love Shein. And I got all of our Easter outfits from there this year. And I spent less on Easter outfits this year than I have in years past when I've ordered them off of Amazon or even gone physically shopping for them. So there are cheap sites too that you can definitely utilize if you're okay with that. I'm not into everything has to be organic clothing and all that. It's not a high priority in my life right now. So we take advantage of, like I said, the free clothing sale. We take advantage of thrift stores. Those are my favorite places to shop. If I go into anything like Maurice's or Kohl's, I never buy anything full price. I always go straight to clearance, and I only shop the clearance rack. That's what I do. I refuse to pay full price for a clothing item just because that's just how I am. The only thing I have an exception for when it comes to clothing is if I need a mod sportswear skirt or I need a swim skirt, I will pay more for that. But even that, I got a beautiful swim dress from Dainty Jewels. I don't know if you've ever heard of Dainty Jewels. It's a beautiful company that makes gorgeous clothes. Super expensive. I could not find a swim dress in this Dainty Jewels line for less than $100. I'm like, I am not paying $100 for this swim dress. So I went to Mercari and I did a search and I found one for half the price. And I offered, you can do offers on Mercari, kind of like you're bidding on an item, and I offered them a lower price than even what they had listed, and they accepted it. So for a fraction of the price, I got a beautiful Dainty Jewel swim dress for you know, just a third of what the normal cost was. So there's ways to find things if you dig. There are different ways to find things, but it does take a little bit of time. It does take a little bit of research, and but it is definitely doable. And I feel it's workable because we're stay-at-home moms, right? So we should have a little bit of time to invest in that to save our husband's money, to save us money. So anyways, like I said, like, share the video, leave any tips down below if you have any suggestions or tips, and I would love to hear what you guys do to save money. I would love to hear. So please leave down below, what are the best hacks? What are the best money saving hacks that you have received, that you implement in your life? I would love to know. So anyways, that is it for this week. Look forward to next week when I have my guest Megan on, and we will see you all next week.